Hello and welcome to topic 2, skill 2, and in this video we are focusing on writing equations. In the past two videos we have looked at the form that we use to write an equation from a word problem, as well as writing an expression. So today we are writing an equation, and just to remind everyone, an equation means that it has an equal sign. So all of our problems today are going to have an equal sign. And here is the formula that we are going to use to solve these to write these equations. So we're first going to be looking, just as a reminder, f of x is going to be our ending value. Our delta is going to be our rate of change, or I'll probably just refer to it as the change. The x is the variable, but it could also be something other than x. And this f of 0 is our starting value. And again, we are writing an equation today, so we are going to have the entire formula included in our answers today. So first example is going to be Natalie owns 8 pairs of shoes. She buys a new pair every day. Write an equation to represent how long it will take for Natalie to own 25 pairs of shoes. So what I want to focus on first is finding what am I supposed to write. Now I told you we're writing equations today, but it does also tell us that we're going to be going for an equation. So I want you to get in the habit of, after you figure out what kind of expression, equation, or inequality that you're doing, go ahead and just write out the form in the correct way so that we know what we're looking for. So I know that I need to find this value, and this value. My ending value, my change, and my starting value. And what's key when we're trying to find that rate of change is the word each, or every, or per. So let's try and find that first. Where do I see the word each, or every, or per? If I read back through, she buys a new pair of shoes every day. So we have to figure out what number is representing that multiplication that we're doing over and over again. Well, how many pairs is she gaining every day? Well, it says a new pair of shoes, which in this case means 1. So the repeated multiplication and our change is going to be a 1. What type of variable are we going to use? Well, we could just use an x, but since we know that we're looking at days, we could also use a d for day. Next thing that we want to look for is our starting value. How many pairs of shoes did Natalie start with? She started with, if I read back through, 8 pairs of shoes. So we're going to start with a positive 8 as our f of 0. Now, if we were just doing skill 1, we would be done right now because we made the expression, we talked about the change and the starting value, but again, this time we are looking for an equation. So I also need to know what is the end value. How many pairs of shoes will Natalie have at the end? Well, let's see, to own 25 pairs of shoes, that's our goal, is to have her owning 25 pairs of shoes. So that 25 is going to be our end value. So our equation is 25 equals 1d plus 8. Example 2, Richard isn't very responsible. He loses 2 pencils every week. He started the school year with 20 pencils. Way to go, Richard. Write an equation to represent how long it will take for Richard to run out of pencils. So again, let's start with trying to figure out what type of equation, expression, or inequality are we going to do. I do see the word equation, so I know that my form is going to be the full shebang here. F of x equals delta times x plus f of 0. So again, I need to know 3 things. I need to know my end value, I need to know my change, and I need to know my starting value. So let's start with this change. It's kind of the easiest place to start because we know that we're looking for our particular word. Each or every or per. If I read back through, isn't very responsible, the 2 pencils every week. So what number is corresponding to that repeated multiplication? Well, if I look back, it looks like it's going to be a 2. So that 2 is how we are changing every week. Now, what variable could I use? I could use an X, like I said before, but since we're talking about every week, it also makes sense to use a W to represent weeks. Then I have to look at, let me just make sure for a minute. He loses 2 pencils every week. So that losing means that we should have a -2. We're getting smaller negative number. That should be a -2W. So make sure that you're kind of checking yourself as you go along with those negative signs. Okay, let's start with this. Let's look at the starting value then. How many pencils did he start with? Well, it says right here he started with 20 pencils. That was a positive 20 because that's how many he had. The last thing I have to find is the ending value. Well, the ending value, it doesn't give me a number, but it says how long will it take him to run out of pencils? Well, how many pencils does he have if he has ran out? Well, he's got 0 pencils if he's ran out. So my ending value is going to be 0. So my full equation, 0 equals -2W plus 20. Go ahead and try one on your own and then ask for the checkpoint. Thanks.